So right behind this flange here, there's an oil seal, and it eventually started leaking when I put the engine in the car. So I'm going to have to try and get this flange out, try and undo this nut while it's installed. I'll have to restrain the flange, stop it from rotating while I try to undo that nut, which is torqued up. So we'll set something up to try to hold this or lock this in place, and then get to this nut. Alright, so we managed to get the bolt loose. It's coming undone now. And the rubber seal in there is all chewed up too. There we go. Flange is off. And you can see where the oil is just dripping out of the bottom here. So we're going to take this seal out and we're going to pop a new one in, and I'm also going to check the bearing there. So if the bearing is worn in the flange, I'm going to have to take this cover off and get the new bearing pressed in there and machined to the right tolerance. Okay, I managed to pry it out just then. So I'll just tidy up the diff cover. We'll put the flange back in and we'll just check for some play. So after a bit of thinking about this output shaft in the side plate cover for the diff, I've decided that I will take it off now and I'm going to rebush it. It's just not worth going to all this effort to find out that even putting a new seal in there and it still leaks. So I can feel a bit of play with this flange in the side cover. So I've gone ahead and ordered the bronze bushings, waiting for them to arrive, but we'll get this off in the meantime, and yeah, we'll rebush it. So we've got the Hardy Spicer flanges and the diff end covers over with my machinist to get the new bushes put in. They were way oversized. There was like 5 to 8 thou clearance. So the flanges were wobbling within the end covers. So while that's being done, we'll go ahead and we'll install the rest of the gear around here. Today we're going to focus on the brakes and the clutch. So I will reinstall this spring and we'll rig up the clutch. I've had to go and buy a new reservoir. So here's the new one. It's a repo. The old one, I broke the little lug off. So we'll install that. I'll transfer this seal over. I've got a new cap in there as well. So yeah, look, it's slightly different color. I might actually transfer this cap over to keep it consistent. See if the cap will transfer over. Yep, so there's the original cap. So we'll install that. And we'll put the brake booster back on, the bracket and the booster, finish off the lines. So we need a line that goes from the booster to here, and then a booster to here. So I'll get going on that now. Next up, we'll go ahead and install Dizzy, and I'll get the bracket set up for the alternator. Okay, so here's the little steel sleeves that go into the master cylinder reservoir. Yep. The seal in there, so we'll slide that in. I'll get rid of this old cap and put a new one in. So off camera, I've had to take this master cylinder back out. We tried to do the bleeding the brake lines, filling it up, and then trying to just bleed it to the front right just for the moment. And I couldn't get any brake fluid, so I undid it here, checked there, checked here, then checked here, and then took this off, and there was nothing. And there was a little bit of rubber that was blocking the port there. So I had to take it all out, check the one-way valve. The little spring that is in the one-way valve, that also dislodged. So it's just as well I took it all back out. I think it dislodged from the rubber that was stuck up in there. So I've thoroughly cleaned it. I've tested it out of the car by just pressing on the plunger on the piston and making sure it squirts out of the top there, and it does. So it's nice and clear now. Now we've reinstalled it. But then when I was reinstalling it, there's two little, on the end of the pistons, two little flanges, and they've got to go either side of the brake pedal. Well, they didn't go where they were meant to go. They skewed off to the side. And it was only until I was trying to put the cotter pin back in that I realized it was skewed. So I had to take it all back out, reset it, put it back in, make sure that that was on either side of the brake pedal. And it was, bolt it all down, and then tighten it back up. So we're good now to test the brakes, or at least bleed them and get the fluid to all of the four corners of the car. I've tightened all these up. So yeah, a little bit later on, we'll try and bleed all the brake line now. Yep, so I've already installed this vacuum port, or one-way valve I should say. That's done. I've connected these hoses now, the heater hoses, so it's a fair bit of length on this. It's probably too much, but we can adjust that a bit later on. It's, probably way too much, and I've got to work out which way we're going to route this. Probably needs to be another 4 inches or so taken off this. We've got to fit the bottom hose soon, but I'll only do that once I've fitted the diff covers. We've also got the slave cylinder for the clutch. Tighten up on the hose there. I've just got to reinstall the spring yet again. I had to play around with this a little bit, hence why it came off, so I'll just go and do that now. And there's the spring reinstalled. This string here, this is just holding up the drive shaft. So it's a good time to go ahead and install the air duct for the cabin. I didn't get this with the car, but I managed to source one in reasonable condition with a nice seal. I gave the seal a good clean in an ultrasonic cleaner, and all the dust came out of it to get that nice white look. So yep, happy with that. I've got another spare seal as well, but it wasn't a white one. It was a grey or a charcoalish type colour. I'm not too sure if they were all white, but I think that there was two different colours. But these are pretty hard to find. These seals are definitely hard to find. But I've got a couple of spare ones of these, and like, yeah, I said, just one spare white seal. So it's in good condition. It's got some splits here. I don't know if that was actually by design though, but that then slides over a union. And I've pre-installed the union onto some Bunnings AC duct flex ducting. So that slides into there, and then we've got the ducting, and then another union which is already press fit onto this elbow, and this elbow then goes into the side of the car. So I'll go ahead and install them. I need to get some more of these bands, like 100mm band. I've only got one at the moment, but we can go ahead and install it anyhow without the band, and I'll fit that one a little bit later. But yep, I'll go ahead and fit all that now. Alright, so I just got to get another band for over here. And possibly here as well. I think I need to clamp that onto that union that's in there. There is a bracket that's supposed to go up here and hold this up. I don't have that, so I'm on the hunt for that, if indeed it did exist on this model. Try not to forget to install the bands though before we lower the car. Well, I got good news and bad news. Good news is the clutch is working. I've stopped all the leaks. There's a little bit of a leak just at this union here. This fitting, that's been resolved. And the clutch extends pretty well. I don't know if it's full throw, but all the air is out of it, and so it's loaded. So I've just dried this, and I'll monitor that to see if the pressure causes it to leak anymore. The bad news is the servo is cactus. It is leaking, so all the brake fluid is actually feeding back into the diaphragm here. So I'll have to undo this, and I think I'm going to send this away for a full resto and get it replated. We'll go and do that. We'll go ahead and take this off. I've got a spare, so I'll fit the spare for now, which isn't ideal because it means if I use the spare and prime all the lines, when I get this back I'm going to have to undo it again, but that's fine. I'd rather get this running for now. So yeah, let me take this off, and we'll go get this reconditioned. Alright, so we got the diff end covers back. They've been machined. Maybe a little bit of play in this one. So what I'm going to do, I'm going to put the seals in, and then we'll measure it again. I just did a really rough measurement here with just a set of verniers, and they feel a little bit tight in some cases and then a little bit loose in others, but we'll find out when we put the seal in there. And I can say that it's definitely a lot more tighter now in tolerance than before, so it's a start. So anyway, I'll go and get these seals pressed in and we'll try it again. Alright, so they're in, and with the seal and position roughly I think where the flange is in the diff cover, I can barely get a 2000 filler in there. It does get in there slightly, like here. But it's pretty tight everywhere else. I don't have a 1 thou. And it's not binding, it's rather smooth. So that, even if that's less than a thou, we'll probably get a bit of wear there, but it will open up. And with this one is looser. So let's have a look. Yeah, the 2000 gets in there easily. Seals went in really nicely. Let's swap these around. Still 2 thou or abouts in that one. And this is roughly 2 thou. I think actually swapping them around feels a little bit more balanced. Yeah. All right. So that's done. It's as good as I'm going to get it. The end covers had all the paint removed and they were chemically cleaned. And for the benefit of time, I'm not going to go bother painting this again in the metallic green. I'm just going to leave them as is and install them. It's not so bad, it's not obvious, and I can make do without the paint in that one location. So we've given them a clean. I'll go and get the new gaskets ready. I've checked the gaskets out. They're exactly the same as the previous ones. They got the right amount of thickness before crush, which is great, but I am going to put a little bit of Hylamar on these surfaces, put the gasket down and bolt them up with Hylamar on the other side of the gasket. So I'll do that off camera now and we'll get these reinstalled into the car. And just in case you're wondering, this was the old rubber bush that was inside the flange. It was all chopped up, compressed, so we installed 2 new ones as well. Got rid of these ones. And I applied a little bit of sealant all the way around it, caked it up, because I've understood that they can perish as well when they get into contact with oil. So we installed the driver's side diff flange and the cover. Wasn't too difficult. I just had to maneuver the drive shaft out of the way. I didn't have to remove the hub on the the driver's side. And I managed to tighten down the center bolt into the flange. And also, yeah, no issue with installing the end cover on the diff. On the passenger side, again, the diff cover was easy to install with the 5 bolts. But for installation of the center bolt in the flange there, I had to remove the entire hub off the passenger side and slide the drive shaft all the way out of the subframe, so I could get a extension piece in there with a torque wrench and tighten it down to spec. Turns nice and freely. Just a bit of rubbing there because it's new disc pads on the passenger side. However, the driver's side is binding a bit. I haven't looked into why that is. Let's give it another go. Yeah, it's binding a fair bit, actually. I was just come out of under the car. Let me see here. I'll just take this brake pad out. It could be that this brake is pressed on the rotor a little bit too much. Let's see if I can just get that out. Okay, that was pretty tight. Let's see now. Oh, there we go. Yep. There is a bit of binding on that new bush that's on the flange cover, or the diff housing cover, end cover. I can feel it binds just a little bit. Yeah. So it may be under toleranced a little bit. It may not be a perfect 1 thou clearance all around it. There is a little bit of binding. But with a little luck, that should stop the leaks. And we're into a larger tolerance over time. So with that done now, we can have a look at the engine. Top down, you can see both the couplings are now connected, both Hardy Spices. So that now paves the way for us to reinstall the extractors now. So I'll get them installed. So I got these Maniflow headers. This was an old set I had. They're not the originals that came with a GT. The GT had a all-in-one press steel 3-in-1 style extractor, but pretty hard to find. I haven't been able to find one yet. So I've gone ahead and wrapped this in a header wrap, and I'll just go ahead and install these for the time being until such time we can get our hands on a set of originals. Okay, the speedometer cable is installed, nice and tight. So I went and bought some more collars that go in for the inlet manifold. I'll slide them in. Alright, so that fits in nicely and centered, which is really great. So I'll take that off for now. And just slowly going around to all the nuts, tightening them down. But it certainly helped to tighten them all the way down to the point that I could only just install the manifold. Saves a lot of time having to try to wind it down one flat at a time. The previous owner had the thick washers, but then he welded on a little bit of another washer on one end. I'm not too sure why, because it might have been because he had a different exhaust manifold that had thicker flanges. But the one that I'm using here, it's the same thickness as the inlet manifold. We've got the original ports here. We zinc plated them, so I'll install them a bit later. So I've come down to one of the harder decisions with this car, and that's what to do with the ignition. So the Dizzy that came with Clubman GTs, or any Mini for that matter, was just a standard points ignition. The Dizzy that comes with it is a Lucas 29 D4, I believe. So when I bought this car, it didn't have the standard points in it. It had a optronics, so Lumination optronics, and this module. And so I've decided to go ahead and still fit this, because even though this is not original, factory fitted, it's what a lot of the owners would have done back in the day. So this is period. Lumination is a very popular brand, still is. They still make them today. I believe it's a British design, or patented in UK and sold in the UK. It was very popular back in the day, and from all the reports I've seen, because it uses optical triggering rather than magnets, it's actually very reliable, so long as the little rotor, which has 4 rotors on it, is intact and not damaged in any way. I've checked my Dizzy, and that Dizzy is fine, but I have no idea on the condition of this. So I'm taking a big risk to start the car up with this. Never tried it, but I'm going to fit it. I've cleaned all the wiring for it, and I'm going to go and install it. Now for this unit, it actually needs a special coil, so I've gone ahead and bought one of them. So this is it here, a Lumination Megaspark 4, and it says, if I can read it, for Lumination standard optronic ignitions and contact breaker distributors, must be used with included ballast resistor or equivalent parts. So the car didn't have the ballast resistor with it. They had a GT40 coil, I think it was. This is a 1.40 coil. So in combination with this, I've also got to install this rather large ballast resistor. So that's the complete setup. Where I fit this, I'm not too sure yet. I'm thinking of actually mounting it really close to the Dizzy, just underneath it, which would be somewhere down low here. We'll see. But for this Lumination, there are already holes here that were drilled for it, so I'm going to reinstall it right next to the voltage regulator. So I'll go ahead and fit that now, and the wiring will run under here and across. So not the tidiest, but look, it was period back in the day. It was a popular model. If it works, all the better. It's going to provide a good, strong spark, from my understanding anyway. But we do need to have this ballast resistor installed in conjunction with it as a result, being a 1.4 ohm coil. So I'll go ahead and install that now, and we'll proceed to installing the Dizzy next. Here's the original Dizzy. So this is a Australian made Lucas 29 D4, and its part number is AYG 0175, and it's also stamped November 1970. So I'm betting this is the original one that came with the car, bearing in mind it was a July 71 car, and this date obviously precedes that, which is right. May have been a recode unit from an earlier model Mini, but anyway, it's certainly the right Dizzy for this car. And as you can see, it's got a special connector to it, and I'll just open it up inside. And on the inside is the Lumination Optronics kit. So I have to actually get a cable tie. I'll just take the rotor off. There we go. So there's the Lumination rotor blade. And it cuts through a LED light in there, or infrared, I'm not too sure exactly. But every time it cuts it, it gets the signal to deliver the spark to the spark plugs. All I've got to do though, this rotor is cutting it pretty close to this cable. So I need to actually route the cable up under this fitting here and just cable tie it to that fitting just there, so it's well out of the way of the rotor. But yeah, rotor slides on, there's no play in that. And my understanding is even if you've got some play in the spindle, it doesn't play any effect onto the rotor. So all we've got to do is change this seal here. This one's destroyed. It's gone hard, so I'll take that off, put a new one on, and then we'll install this. I've got to wait for the seal to replace this, but we'll just do a fit check for now. Okay, so we got the dizzy in temporarily. I've just had to remove this clamping bracket somewhat so I could slide it in. There was just a bit of interference, so that's in now. Obviously this has to rotate to time the engine properly, but it wasn't at the 2 o'clock, it was 180 degrees. So kind of like at the 7:30 position. So we'll just clamp this up, see that it's okay. Doesn't clash with the oil lines. There we go. And so here's the harness. And what we'll have to do is route this around the existing wiring loom. So I'll pass under here. And only got one way to go. Colors line up. So yeah, that connects. Right, so we've just painted these, the pulley wheel and the fan for the 15 AC alternator. Alternator's been vapor blasted. We've zinc plated the 3 screws that lock it down and clean the internals. Yep, I unfortunately lost the Woodruff key that goes into the spindle here. So I've had to make one up. Had to cut up a thick washer. Fits in there nicely. So it's a nice, really nice fit. And the pulley wheel can slide over it nicely. Doesn't bind. With the fan on there, it will stay in place as well. But yeah, there we go. Fits on there. Just got to tap that down a little bit to get it back into the slot. But so we'll go ahead, we'll assemble this, lock it down with the spring washer and the nut, and we can tighten that down in the car now. So after a bit of fiddling about, we've sorted out the coil now and the position, so it's clearing the oil line from the oil filter to the oil cooler. We've fitted the resistor down here, just at an angle so it still clears the alternator and the bottom of the coil. Wired up the black lead to the positive and connected the lumination electronic module assembly brown wire to the negative. I believe that's the right setup now for a negative earth system. So we've tightened this down. I've had to play around with the bolt that goes on the water pump backing plate, or whatever it is, the backing plate underneath the water pump, to get the right standoff to fit the belt, so the belt's nice and tensioned. And I actually had the wrong bracket that allows the alternator to slide in and out to get the right tension, and I had a spare which was the right one for this vintage, so I fitted that. It's just behind here, and yeah, tension that up. So we've got the sensor for the water temp. So it's not super long. I don't think it's gonna feed in underneath the alternator. No. So I don't know if the length has been cut over time. So I'll just have to run it on the top like so. Okay, so the Lumination Megaspark is working, the coil's working, and the module. I was just doing a bit of trial here, rotating the dizzy, just to see if I get the spark. So number one, these leads aren't the best. I think it's giving a strong spark, but from the coil, alright, so from that we can deduce that the illumination is working. So what I'll do, I'll take the dizzy out, put a new O-ring in there, and then we'll clamp down the bolts on the dizzy with static timing set. The engine is at top dead center, so we've got a reference point to begin with. And yeah, we'll get the rest of the engine built. Okay, I'm going to wrap this episode up here as we've made some pretty good progress now with sorting out the leaks from the diff end covers and setting up the ignition system. In the next episode though, I'm going to progress now with the radiator and the carb setup. as well as sort out the gearbox, fit the exhaust system, and start to look at the Lucas electrical lighting. So that'll keep us busy as we try to get this car back on the road. All right, thanks for watching and see you next episode.